McGurran?
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
Let the poor suffer.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised how many people came up with something like that. So things that were good. You did a much better job of taking an intellectual risk. You all phrased your sentences well, in that even those of you that phrased them incorrectly were still advocating for a point. You were saying he was trying to make a point, and then you tried to articulate his point. Our shortcoming came at expressing his point. The two different ideas that you could generally come up with, one would have been about talking about lifeboat ethics. What are lifeboat ethics? He spends a majority of the essay discussing how lifeboat ethics work. Somebody help me out. Eve.
Lifeboat ethics is closely related to environmental ethics, utilitarianism, and issues of resource depletion. Hardin uses lifeboat ethics to question policies such as foreign aid, immigration, and food banks.
Yeah. So to put simply, lifeboat ethics means what? You have how many resources? How many seats in the lifeboat? Limited, right? We're on the Titanic. Hey, we have 1 million people on the Titanic. We only have enough lifeboats for 500,000 people. Okay, so what are we going to do? If we all want to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and try to save everybody, what's going to happen? Everyone's going to die. If we try to put 1 million people in lifeboats designed for 500,000, that's not going to work. Additionally, like he says, if a lifeboat has space for 10 people, should you be putting 10 people in there? Okay, you're shaking your head. Why? Right, you don't have any margin for error. So he advocates, if you be responsible with the resources you have. So lifeboat ethics, a main idea could be that, the world is a rough and tumble place, and it's an impossibility. It's an impossible goal to try to provide everything to everybody. And when you do that, you end up losing everything. So it's important, lifeboat ethics, what is it important to do? Manage your resources responsibly based on what you have and the people that you can help. Does that make sense? Class. Okay, so that could have been one main idea. Another main idea. Yep.
We must be careful with the distribution of our resources. Concentration on quality of the few rather than quantity for the many is necessary for the world to survive.
Yeah, and at the end, he's driving at the idea of, is the world, and do you know what the word egalitarian means?
Yeah.
What does egalitarian mean, Ms. Mesker?
Egalitarian's supposed to be a society where everyone is equal and everyone's okay. But
Yeah. Is the world an egalitarian place where everyone is equal?
No.
And ideally, we want it to be that way, right? But according to this fella, is it? No. Okay. So it's not an egalitarian place. Things aren't equal. Some places have more resources and benefits than others. Can we go back and fix everything and make it egalitarian? No. Hey, the colonists came over and they took the land from the Native Americans, right? Hey, can we go back and change that? Morally, who has the claim to the land? Yeah, but is that ever going to happen? No. Okay, so what are we going to do? Okay, so he's kind of saying the other main idea would be we can't continue to cry and try to make perfect the sins of the past. What's happened has happened. Here's our new reality. And so based on that new reality, how do we plot a way forward? Some of you were a little too cutthroat when you would say something. This is not just limited to one. Several people said this. We got to get rid of the poor people, or we can't help. He's not saying to cut the rope to poor people or cut the rope to people that need help. He's just saying, what about those people that need help? What do we do? Help as much as we can, as much as we responsibly can. We have 10 open seats in our boat. Okay, we can fit 5 people comfortably in. We're not going to bring in 10 people. And so then the question becomes, how do you choose who to pick? How do you choose how many to help? Okay, that would have been the other main idea. Does that make sense, Team America? Team America has a little,
We're in the left.
we're in the light bulb. Okay, now let's have a quick discussion about a positives. Open up the book to page 367.
A positive or?
We're gonna start with positives.
Wait, no.
367.
I think that's
I have a
the
positive.
beginning of lifeboat ethics.
Oh, we're gonna go through the positives.
Remember, you are supposed to read and watch out for positives, right? Come prepared to discuss their rhetorical effect. Now, class,
I'm prepared.
what are 4 different things that a positives can do?
Clarify.
Clarify, explain,
Oh.
define,
Explain.
Specify.
specify.
Clarify.
All right. So those are the 4 different things that a positives can do. What does it mean when I ask you to analyze the rhetorical effect of something?
Find the function it's giving towards the author's argument.
So the function of this thing towards the author's argument. So if I ask you for the rhetorical effect of a positive, you're analyzing how that a positive affects
The argument.
the argument that the author's making. Now, just take a gander in that book. What is the first positive that comes up? Wherever the article begins. I think it's 367. First, the positive is.
Let us assume that it has room for 10 more.
Is that the? I told you the wrong page. 365. Sorry.
A true spaceship would have to be under the control of the captain, since no ship could possibly survive it.
Before that,
Really? Oh.
Yep.
Did they argue?
Is the entire second paragraph
Mhm.
in a positive?
before that,
Whoa.
No single person or institution is the maker.
Is it the metaphor of Earth as a spaceship?
right? Earth is like a spaceship, right? So we're comparing Earth to a spaceship in order to explain how Earth is like a spaceship, right? Because a positive means what? You're like renaming something, you're refining something. So Earth is being described as a spaceship, so that's in a positive. Describing Earth as a spaceship. Okay, so we've identified in a positive, Earth is a spaceship. Okay, we've identified the function of that a positive. That a positive is explaining how Earth is a spaceship. Now, based on what's written, somebody explain to me how Earth is like a spaceship.
Since we all share life on this planet, no single person has the right to destroy, waste, or use more than its fair share.
Bingo. Hey, now put that in your own words. Somebody tell me on their own, how is Earth like a spaceship? Maybe you need to bring in some ideas that aren't necessarily stated in the text.
Since everybody was kind of brought into life on this earth, we can't all be destroying it at different rates. We gotta all be equally
We got-
in the destruction.
Yeah, we got to all be on. We're all in this together. Right? If you're on a spaceship, how do you figure out how much oxygen Morgan gets compared to how much oxygen Belil gets?
Your total last paper slide.
They do not play rock paper scissors on spaceships.
I mean, they probably do. Just
They probably do, but not for oxygen functions.
I'm reading today.
Okay, well,
You think of Apollo? Has anyone seen Apollo 13, the movie? Tom Hanks, wonderful movie. If you don't know, they're on a spaceship, and then all of a sudden, their resources get diminished significantly, like to the point where they only have like half the oxygen they need to get from point A to point B, considering their carbon dioxide figures. Now, what do they? Even if you haven't seen it, ask yourself, what do? Do they play rock, paper, scissors? Hey, we're going to go in here and breathe, and you're going to stay out here and suffocate?
whoever was more useful probably got to live.
No, they do not do that. What do?
It's shared.
They share it. They try to fix the problem. They're all in it together. They don't allocate oxygen based on whatever. Everyone's breathing the oxygen. You're in a spaceship. Everyone's breathing. You're in a spaceship. How do you allocate food? How do you decide how much food she gets compared to how much she gets?
Everybody's equal.
You don't. They both get food, right? If there is one plate of food left, what are they going to do? They're going to share it. Okay, so the Earth is like a spaceship. We have air, we have water, we have resources. What should we be doing with those resources if Earth is like a spaceship? Yeah, sharing them. Figuring out a way to make sure that everyone has access to the resources. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've identified the appositive. Earth is like a spaceship. We've identified that the appositive is explaining something. How Earth is like a spaceship. Now I have just explained how Earth is like a spaceship, according to the author, right? Okay, the last step would be to do what now? Analyze the rhetorical function of our appositive. So, rhetorically, considering the author's argument and what they're making, what's the purpose? Yeah, what's the effect or purpose of this appositive phrase?
They're bringing up their opposition's argument to refute it.
Right. They're going to immediately contrast. He is bringing up this point. Some people like to see Earth as a spaceship. I'm going to explain that. And now here's why that's misguided. We are not a spaceship. We are a lifeboat. So we've gone through the process of identifying an appositive. We've expanded on what the appositive means and what it's saying. And then we analyze its rhetorical function. Its rhetorical function is to contrast.
Right.
Make sense, team?
Good point.
It's almost like if I were going to write this down, I would write down something like this. In the first paragraph, the author uses the metaphor of a spaceship to explain how Earth is like a spaceship. Hey, what am I doing here in this first sentence?
Explain
Not explaining. I haven't explained anything yet.
it. Clarify.
I've
Restate.
identified. Okay, I'm identifying what? The appositive, and I'm identifying what?
The kind of
Its function. So I'm identifying the appositive and the function. According to Hardin, people misguidedly use the example of a spaceship as a way to demonstrate how citizens of the Earth should function. Now you see a colon happening here. What's going to happen after that colon? About what?
The previous.
What specific thing are you going to get more information about?
Citizens of Earth.
Yeah, how should they function? Sharing resources and preserving life, since the citizens of the Earth are all in this together. Okay, what is the purpose of this second sentence?
Rhetoric.
No.
it's bringing up like the point he's going to contrast.
What am I?
To prove the argument that's not what he believes.
What am I doing here? Yeah, I'm unpacking the appositive here. I'm stating what the appositive is explaining, right? I identified the appositive as explaining something, and now you could say I'm analyzing or explaining the function of a positive.
You're explaining.
Now, if I said clarify right here, what would this second sentence be doing? Talking about how this appositive is clarifying something. If I said specify right here, what would I be doing down here? Describing how it's specifying something. So you're walking through that you know how the appositive works. You're not just identifying the appositive and saying, here's what they say. You're explaining, demonstrating that you know what's going on. Hey, this explanation sets up a point that Hardin will ferociously dissect, for he immediately sets out to show how Earth is more like a lifeboat than a spaceship. Colon, what's going to happen? About? Yep. A vessel with a finite amount of resources and a place where hard decisions must be made. What is the function of this last sentence?
Contribution to the main idea.
You're right, but use the words we've been using already.
It's his main argument.
Rhetoric.
I'm analyzing its impact on rhetoric. I'm looking at the rhetorical function of this appositive. to the essay's point as a whole. You got it? Now, since we spent so much time on this, what do you imagine is going to happen next?
We have to do that.
Bingo. Get together with one other person, or you can fly solo. So just quickly point to what you're doing. If you're flying solo, put up your fist. If you're working with somebody, point at somebody. There are only groups of 2. There are no groups of 3.
For which one? The next one, or like another one?
No, for the next activity we're gonna do. Either you individually or you and one other partner are going to write one of these. What do we got? Solo. What's going on over here? Working together. Working together. Working together. Working together. Working together. What's going on here?
Only one of us write it?
Yes, only one of you needs to write it. So you 2 and then those 2. Okay. Yep. Just hold on a second. All right. Listen up. This is a first come, first serve basis. So you and your group need to first identify an appositive. Once you've identified your appositive, you need to do this. You should have this done by the end of class. If you do not, you need to make sure that both people come to class tomorrow with access to whatever it is you create. So if you're in different classes, make sure everyone has access to whatever you need to have access to. Shab?
Can you tell me what your scribbles on the board?
So the top scribble says this first sentence, you're identifying the appositive and stating its function. So identify the appositive, I said it's explaining. Your second sentence is unpacking the appositive. So if I said the appositive is explaining, I explain how it explains. If I say the appositive clarifies, I say how it clarifies. Yep, okay, good. The last sentence needs to analyze its rhetorical function. So first come, first serve on the appositive. You just raise your hand and I'll. You were first, you're second, third, fourth, fifth. What we got? So what is the appositive?
I don't know how to do
So like the positive was like the one that had was,
That was the positive.
So here we said.
oh, the basic method. Okay, yeah, never mind, yes. Okay, so paragraph 10 is spoken for.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We can do that one right.
Wait, which one is that?
So here we said.
Paragraph 6.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Paragraph 3.
Paragraph 3. Thanks, Bauer. United Nations is a toothless tiger.
Greg.
Setting
All
up
right,
the
paragraph
the
3.
situation of how we go from the
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Is there 2 right here? Because it says the Earth has no captain and then talks about how the United Nations.
So that is kind of an
Yeah, right.
extension of, or that's like a reputation of this one. So you could go with that. So he's saying this, so the comparison is defined that Earth is not like a spaceship.
So where was the appositive?
I'm not gonna explain that to you.
Okay, well, I was thinking that the Earth certainly has but this is an appositive for that. So can we take this one?
No, because they're gonna talk about that when they talk about the United Nations.
I mean, I actually did, so. I just didn't understand it. I mean, I got it from the end, so basically you have to like.
It's like sets up an image. Sets up an image for the reader.
Oh, yeah, because this right here is providing further clarification.
Like, oh, like, it's saying that like.
Yeah, 7. Paragraph 7.
In these paragraphs, are sets of images.
Yeah. Paragraph 16.
We got ours right here.
Yep, oh, yep. What number is that? 15.
We have to choose one. We have to choose one.
Okay.
We have to explain.
In the
No,
15th
we have to.
paragraph,
We have to choose one of the words like
that
that.
uses a positive about.
Oh, yeah.
So, clarify, explain, find.
Oh,
Are you saying like- Okay, and so I wrote the undersized image of Alexa.
Yeah, fundamental error.
Oh, to help describe to the audience.
That equates to what I call.
Why are you reading that?
Describe to-
Yeah, you can have it.
Wait, it's okay. It is
Here.
What is-
Oh, no, yeah, yeah. No, you're ready. Ready.
Oh, like.
Describe.
Oh, it's broke.
It's not on the like.
You got something on that?
She came in, she said her stuff done.
He's supposed to be.
So that's why.
All of this is.
Oh, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So again, not necessarily always a positive trait.
That's wrong. Should we say like a real life? Like a real life.
He said something image of a, it's like white blue, right?